Our story begins in a remote village of Ninjago. This village the ninja were visiting was hosting its annual festival. There was good food, games, and even a traveling puppet show. Jay suggests that they watch it, but Wu begins to freak out, wanting to do anything at the festival that doesn't involve puppets. The ninja's curiosity gets the better of them, and they ask Wu why he has a puppophobia. In turn, Wu sits the ninja down and tells them the story of the origin of his puppet problem. Wu's story picks up days after Wu and Garmadon left the Order of the Feliz. Tired and hungry, the boys happily stumble upon a quiet little village. However, once there, Wu noticed the people were acting strange, reclusive. They followed their noses to the marketplace, where they found a vendor selling delicious dumplings. Sadly, the brothers were short on change and couldn't afford them. As they were about to turn away, a young girl told the woman to give the travelers a plate full of dumplings. This girl's name was Hannah, and the stubborn vendor was her grandma, Obachan. Hannah told Wu and Garmadon that there had been some disappearances lately, villagers and children stolen in the night, including Hannah's brother. Garmadon explained to Obachan and Hannah that they were ninja and could help protect them and the villagers. Reluctantly, Obachan agreed to let them stay, much to Wu and Garmadon's delight. That night, Wu had a terrible dream. He and Garmadon had reached the fabled tea plant that would cure Garmadon, only to find out that the plant made him even more evil. Wu ran away screaming from the monster that had become of his brother. The dream scared Wu so badly he woke up straight in bed. However, the screaming didn't stop. Someone was in trouble. Outside, a bunch of what appeared to be little men were grabbing and attacking a farmer. Wu woke up Garmadon and both leaped into action. They used Spinjitzu and freed the farmer, but these little men were not easily defeated. They pushed back, tugging and kicking. During the heat of battle, Wu grabbed one and noticed that their enemy was not in fact tiny men, but puppets. In shock, Wu threw the puppet and it, as well as the rest, vanished into the deep forest bordering the village. Hannah rushed out and thanked the brothers for saving the farmer. Obachan then invited Wu and Garmadon for tea. Obachan told them that people had been getting taken by the puppets. What's eerie about the whole situation is that the puppets bear a striking resemblance to those stolen, even down to the clothes they were wearing. Wu and Garmadon agreed to help, and they even had a plan for doing so. That night, Wu pretended to sleep outside, while Garmadon kept close to follow the puppets to wherever they would take Wu. All at once, a small army of puppets swarmed Wu like bees, covering Wu from head to foot in rope. The ones in charge were a puppet named Moody, and the other was named Bunch. They tied Wu up and began to disappear back into the forest, with Garmadon following closely behind. Being careful not to be spotted, Garmadon followed Wu and the puppets into a dark tunnel. It led to a cave with more living puppets, all displaying blank expressions. In the center of a room, a creature of darkness and shadow crept out. He that wore a magical medallion around his neck was Tanebrax, the puppet master. Slowly, Tanebrax began to create a puppet bearing a striking resemblance to Wu. All at once, Wu sprang up out of the ropes. He was about to charge at Tanebrax, but before he could launch into a Spinjitzu tornado, Tanebrax began muttering the ancient language of Ninjago. His medallion began to swirl and glow. Wu went limp, eyes locked to the medallion. Tanebrax grabbed the puppet modeled after Wu and held it up. Wu's mouth went agape as a tendril of energy streamed from his mouth to the puppet. Garmadon now watched, transfixed with fear, knowing that this was far beyond him. He knew in order to save Wu, he would need some help. So while no one was watching, Garmadon grabbed Moody and booked it out of the lair of Tanabrax. Garmadon ran all the way back to the village where he, Obachan, and Hannah gathered around to question Moody. They tried asking him questions, but Moody was in a panic. Obachan knew what to do. She began to comfort Moody, promising they wouldn't hurt him. Moody calmed down enough for Garmadon to ask him how Tanebrax does it. Moody started at the beginning, back when Tanebrax was nothing but a traveling puppeteer. One day, a Jinn chariot crashed through his puppet stand. When it left, it dropped a magical medallion, which Tanebrax picked up and became obsessed with. He learned the ancient Jinn language through many books to use the medallion, and who better to test it on than a couple of low-time thugs, Bunch and Moody, the only puppets not under the control of Tanebrax. As for the rest, they were not only under the control of Tanebrax, but also immortal. Souls in a puppet body can last forever, giving Tanebrax a virtually indestructible army. At once, Moody grew sad. He then began to describe what happened to those bodies without a soul. After a while, they just disappear and fade away. Garmadon could tell by Moody's expression that his body had been long gone. Oba-chan stepped in to comfort Moody. She told him he was worth more than Tanebrax treated him, that he was free to make his own decisions on whether or not to help. Endeared, Moody agreed to help lead them back to the lair. However, Garmadon knew it would take more than the four of them to stop Tanebrax. They would need help. At once, Oba-chan grabbed a spoon and a pot to rally the villagers. Once together, Garmadon began training them to fight the puppets. All night they practiced. At sunrise, the villagers were ready, so they forged out into the forest. Moody was scared, but Oba-chan reminded him of his newfound freedom, giving Moody courage. All was going to plan until halfway through the forest they got ambushed. Puppets everywhere in the trees. They came down and began attacking the villagers. The villagers were losing, but Garmadon knew what he had to do. With Hannah, led by Moody, he entered into Tanebrax's lair. On their way down, Moody ran into Bunch and began to fight. Hannah and Garmadon kept forward, halting seeing a figure emerge from the shadows. Wu. At once, Wu whipped into a Spinjitzu tornado. Garmadon tried hard not to hurt the puppet body, but even a tiny Wu is a force to be reckoned with. Hannah sprinted to the other side of the room and emptied out a chest. Garmadon backed up and tricked Wu into jumping into the chest. Quickly, Garmadon shut it and locked it. That left only one obstacle: defeating Tanebrax. Garmadon moved and went through the curtain behind Tanebrax's desk. There he found the lifeless bodies of those townfolks Tanebrax stole from, even Wu. Out of the shadows, Tanebrax crept up. Enraged, Garmadon leapt toward him, jumping right into a Spinjitzu tornado. However, Garmadon passed right through. Tanebrax may have been human at some point, but now he is pure shadow. At once, Tanebrax pulled out his medallion and pointed it at Garmadon, transfixing him to it. Garmadon took his chance and grabbed the medallion off his chest. However, it was no use. Garmadon had no idea how to use it or how to free the puppet army, which had fast approached. Tanebrax's arm wrapped tightly around Garmadon, making the medallion fall to the ground. One of Tanebrax's leg tendrils began to move towards it, but before he could grab it, Oba-chan and Moody busted in. Oba-chan threw Moody to the top of the room, where Moody opened a sun hatch. Light streamed through and onto Tanebrax. Tanebrax could not stand before it and dissolved away, the smoke swirling out of the hatch. The rest of the puppet villagers began to stream in, all confused at what was happening. Wu cried out from the chest. Garmadon ran over and unlocked it. Together with little puppet Wu, Garmadon and him found the ancient book containing the spell. Together, they found the spell that would return all souls to their bodies. The only problem was that Bunch and Moody didn't have theirs anymore. Oba-chan gave them the choice. At first, Bunch was hesitant, but after thinking about all the people, all the life they hadn't lived, he agreed same with Moody. Oba-chan thanked them and gave them a hug. All of the puppets gathered by their bodies as Garmadon held up the medallion. He said the words as loudly as he could. The medallion began to glow and spin. Streaks of light filled the room as those souls left their puppet prison to return to their home. Garmadon looked over at Moody and Bunch, who were slowly fading away. Moody thanked Oba-chan. "Thank you for being so nice to me," he said. Before he and Bunch swirled out of the room, the spell was complete. All at once, the villagers began to wake up. Hannah and Oba-chan ran and embraced Hannah's brother, and the rest of the village cheered. The next day, Wu and Garmadon said their goodbyes, getting thanked by many of the villagers, including Hannah and her brother. All that was left was to deal with the medallion. Oba-chan put the medallion into a pot and put it into a hole. Flowers would bloom over it, and no one would ever be able to find it again. With that, Wu and Garmadon ate their last plate of dumplings before heading off back into the unknown for the ever-mysterious tea plant. The ninjas stared with open mouths as Wu concluded his story. Behind them, the puppeteer pulled out his puppets. Cole looked creeped out and the ninja began to laugh. As the cart pulled away, the ninja asked Wu if Tanebrax was ever seen again, which Wu replied no. Laughing and talking, Master Wu and his students walked away from the festival, and in the back of the traveling wagon, a puppet sat up and watched them go. A puppet with glowing eyes and no strings.